many months ago, back in, I don't know when it was, Dave, but the Harold E. Simon Foundation, which is a foundation established by Harold Simon, the late Harold Simon, which his children, David and Jennifer, take care of and do tzedakah. That's what foundations do. They do tzedakah. And they came and said, we want to focus on the issue of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, do a program. And then it happened. And we had to postpone the program. The war was going on. People were stuck in Israel, couldn't get here. And finally, we've reached that point where we have the program, a Shabbat of study and inquiry about anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And we've brought, Simon Foundation has brought here from Chirut. Chirut is the Hebrew word for freedom. Chirut is in America, it's in Israel, it's everywhere. It's many different places throughout the world. An organization established to provide a home for people seeking a connection to the Jewish homeland, building community based on the principles of Zionism, human dignity, and indigenous rights. They're an educational group. They teach about Zionism, not a political group. They want to teach about Zionism, and we'll hear about that tonight and tomorrow. It embodies the teachings of Zev Jabotinsky. Now, you may not know who Jabotinsky is, but you all know who Menachem Begin was. Menachem Begin was the heir to Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky was his mentor, and he was his follower and his successor. Speaking this evening, we have with us Karma Feinstein-Cohen, the executive director of Chirut, which was founded in 1999. The sole educational movement of unapologetic Zionism based on three pillars: integrity of land, Jewish unity, social justice. She has worked tirelessly to advance the movement's goals, both worldwide and in Israel. It's a global movement, and while united in ideology, each Chirut branch has its own style to fit where it is in the world. She has successfully led that movement, a diverse and highly active movement on 5 continents now. The resume is amazing. She's been the head of the overseas department for World Beitar Executive and then treasurer in 1994. Through WIZO, she headed up the Manot program for high-risk communities, run by the Department of Youth and Chalutz in the WZO, and worked as a short-term shaliach in 1996 and 97, opened and operated as the co-chair of the Council of World Zionist Youth Movements. She was elected as chairwoman of the Council of World Zionist Youth Movements, the first woman to ever serve in that position. Ms. Feinstein-Cohen moved to Israel from Jersey with her family when she was 11 years old. She served in the Israeli army, received a BA in political economics from Tel Aviv University, now living in Sharei Tikva, which is a community in Samaria with her husband and her 2 kids. A member of the Presidium of the Zionist General Council of WZO, World Zionist Organization, and has been a Jewish Agency Committee member since 2002 and serves as a board member. She served as WZO representative on the board of directors of a council to perpetuate the memory of Zev Jabotinsky in the office of the Prime Minister of Israel. Most of all, she's simply a lover of Zion, a lover of Israel, a lover of the Jewish people, and is here to talk about how is it that Zionism became a dirty word.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. What an honor, an amazing honor. Shabbat Shalom. This is a throwback and in a very good way. I've missed this. Israel is wonderful, but this is such a fabulous service, and I'm so very honored and pleased to be here today. How did Zionism become a dirty word? Why did it become a dirty word? I'm a Zionist. You know, it's like almost today when you say I'm a Zionist, it's like coming into something anonymous, this or that, and admitting to a fault. So I come from a Zionist home. My parents were Zionists. My father was a Hebrew professor. He taught at City College of New York. Now, colleges are a very hot topic today, right? That's what we see on the news today. I remember as a child, we would go celebrate Israel Independence Day, Yom HaAtzmaut, on CCNY campus. Israeli music blasting, flags of Israel everywhere. Can you imagine that happening anywhere today? Anywhere. It was like a dream come true. And then my parents said we would be making Aliyah, which was a great shock. And it's not that easy to make Aliyah, although it's a wonderful country. And it took me a very, very long time to accept that I was part of this enormous project, because Zionism is a project, it's an ideology. It's the civil rights movement of the Jewish people. Terrible, right? Racist, right? No. I lived in a bubble in the United States. I lived in a Zionist bubble. But then again, the United States back in the 70s was very different than it is today. We made Aliyah in 78. I was 11 and a half years old. Do the math. Over 40 years ago, almost 45 years. Think about it. Think about today, the United States, and how we're afraid to say that we're Jewish on campuses. Then we celebrated Zionism with flags and with Israeli music and singing and dancing on the entire campus in the middle of Manhattan. But that is no longer the situation, unfortunately. And one of my important steps in becoming part of Israeli society was joining a Zionist youth movement. And that was something that basically helped me absorb into Israeli society. It was a very, excuse me, sometimes it's hot here and sometimes it's cold. Whoops, and that's a microphone. Forgive me. And the Zionist youth movement enabled me to learn what the Zionist project was and to become an intricate part of Israeli society. And I left a Zionist America. And when I grew up, I joined the IDF. It was part of my, it's all part of the cycle of life in Israel. Everything was Zionism. And my childhood in the United States was all about Zionism. And I assumed that this would continue to be the situation. This bubble burst. And my first encounter with this bubble bursting was when I decided to establish my own Zionist movement. In 1999, I left the youth movement I had been working for, and I established my own. Some would say, our British friends would say that I had to be in my bonnet, and I just went to do something different. And I wanted to do it my way. So I started the rounds in different countries, and I went, and I ended up in the United States, back home. And I came to the American Zionist movement, which is the Zionist Federation in the United States. I assume you've all heard of it? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps. We'll talk about that. Anyway, I go into the AZM, and I'm waiting for a meeting with the executive director. And the walls are very thin. God forbid I would not eavesdrop. But I heard a conversation. I overheard a conversation. One of the prominent female leaders from one of the big Zionist female organizations, women's organizations, was speaking to the executive director of the AZM, yet another woman. And they were talking about an event for youth. And one woman said to the other, "We can't call it a Zionist event." She's like, "Why? It's not palatable. It'll scare people away. We can't use that term." I think it was a shock to the extent that and this is a woman who's one of the leaders of the prominent women's Zionist movements, talking to the executive director of the American Zionist movement saying, "Zionism, not palatable." And that's when it hit me. And I started to do a little bit of research. Now, mind you, again, I said that my history was full of Zionism in my family. My father even did his doctorate on American Zionism. By the way, of blessed memory, he would tell you that that book, if you have insomnia, 5 pages of the book and you're out like a light, I'm quoting. Anyway, me and my Zionist bubble burst, and we have to, something has to be done. And that's when I said, I knew that I was part of a Zionist movement, but then I had to find a Zionist packaging, because I didn't want to change the ideology. I just had to find modern packaging that would work. And it took us a while, but we finally came up with, it's not enough to be a Zionist. You have to be an unapologetic Zionist. And then I started to ask around and find, partners, people who would work with me, organizations. And the more that, and I thought this one woman I had heard was some anomaly, it was something that, wasn't popular. And sadly, I discovered that more and more prominent American organizations refrain from using the word Zionism. How did Zionism become a dirty word? When our institutions, when our establishments, when our major organizations cannot use the word Zionism, how can we? Why should we? How do we have the guts to come out and say we are Zionists when, and as Rabbi said before, I'm a proud member of the Board of Governors of the Jewish Agency for Israel. I am very proud of the Jewish Agency for Israel. Did you ever read their mission statements? I urge you, I can read it if you'd like, if we have enough time. They will tippy-toe, I'm a member of the board. I will elected by the way, tippy-toe around Israel, defending, multifaceted, pro, yada, 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 yada. What's missing? What word is missing? Zionism. It just isn't there. How are we supposed to be Zionists if our most prominent organizations do not use the word? So we're called racist by our enemies, and we're called fascists, and you name it, because we're Zionists. What is Zionism? Zionism is the civil rights movement of the Jewish people. It's our right to a homeland. It's our right to safety. It's not an aggressive word. We just want to be equal to everybody else. We want to be like every other nation, people, yada, yada, et cetera, But no, we're not allowed to do that because we're racists. But you want to know something? It's not our enemy's fault. It's ours. It's ours. Look up the most, I can give you a list. We actually printed it out. First of all, I'm seeing something wonderful on Facebook lately. It says, I am a proud Zionist because I understand what it means. First of all, I'm not certain that people understand what it means. And in addition to understanding, so it's nice that 1, 10, 5, in Facebook, the algorithm shows you your own friends and the only people that think like you think. How many people don't understand what Zionism means? We'll never understand what Zionism means when our biggest organizations, here, I'll read something, very short. Proud pro-Israel Americans. We bring together all parties to advance our shared mission, building bipartisan support for the U.S.-Israel relationship and an American value we are proud to champion. As my grandmother would say, nishtahir, nishtahir. What? Where? Why can't you say Zionism? Why is it such a problem to use the word Zionism? Why are we so afraid? Why are we so afraid? The Jewish Agency, I just have to. Again, I'm a proud member. I think it's a fantastic organization. Our vision, a secure, diverse, and thriving Jewish people, united in our heritage and by our commitment to Israel, the homeland of the Jewish people and all of its citizens. Our mission, wait, it gets better. The Jewish Agency provides the global framework for Aliyah, ensures global Jewish safety, strengthens Jewish identity, connects Israel to Jews to Israel, blah, 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 blah. Why can't they say Zionism? Why? Why? Even JNF USA, which is clearly a Zionist organization, you have to read 3 paragraphs to get to the word Zionism. Zionist education, 3 paragraphs down. Hopefully you'll miss it and maybe we won't sound so extreme. The change can start in this room. We can make a difference. We can make a difference. And I am so honored to be standing here today with so many people and so many open hearts, belev chafetz, open hearts to listen. Because if we start using the term Zionist, so we understand it, and if we don't know how to explain it, I have a very large team of educators who will be happy to give you every explanation under the sun on why it is just. It's our civil rights movement. It's who we are as a nation. It's our right to a safe haven, to a homeland, to be normal like every other nation. Is that too much to ask? If we start using the term Zionism, if we start speaking about Zionism, we will begin the change. If we look at, and there are more organizations. Can anybody give me a name of an organization that they know for sure is Zionist besides the World Zionist Organization? ZOA, correct. Hadassah, these are all members of the, that's true by the way, these are all members of the WZO. You are now specifically mentioning, unfortunately, the WZO and the AZM is a relatively small umbrella organization. In the last AZM elections, 30,000 people. How many Jews are there in the United States? Under 150,000 voted. That means that over 4 million Jews have no clue what's going on. Pardon? Who? AZM has 152 seats in the World Zionist Congress. But the issue is, where are all the Zionists? If we're over 5 million Jews in the United States, where are all the Zionists? Why aren't more people speaking up about our natural, human, civil, normal? Start to normalize the word. If I can come out of here asking this wonderful congregation one thing, it's that you start using the term Zionism. And do not be afraid. It became a dirty word because if our own institutions won't use it, on their mission statements, on their vision, on their website, in their paperwork, if they won't use it, why should we? So instead of going from up, down, let's go from down up. Let's start making Zionism a useful daily term. Start using the word Zionism. I am a Zionist. Oh, you're a racist. No, I'm not. Why am I a racist? We can help you learn how to debunk all of these lies. All we want to be is like everybody else. We want to be treated equally. We want rights. We want to live in safety. We want to wear a Magen David without being threatened. We want our children to be able to go into universities and not be stopped by regardless who, what, where, when, how, because they are Jewish. They can't go into campuses today because they're Jewish. Let's wrap our heads around that a little bit. This is not the United States I grew up in. Something has to be done, and we have to make the change. The Chirut movement brings unapologetic Zionism. It took us a very long time, and by the way, it went through a lot of thoughts on how to phrase it, how to come up with something so educational no one would say we're political, because we aren't. Politics will happen regardless. We need to bring our hearts together under the one flag that unites us. We are part of one people. We are part of one nation. We are Zionists, and we are not ashamed to do so. My name is Karma Feinstein, and I am a Zionist.
Let me ask a question.
Please.
So you have a few minutes.
I've never timed myself.
Right. My board of director times me. You need a board. Okay. So, you've made it very clear what happened to Zionism within our own Jewish community. How is it that Zionism, anti-Zionism, as you said, what is that Jews walking on Columbia campus who's not an Israeli, who doesn't make any decisions in Israel, doesn't live in Israel, how does that antagonism towards the right of the Jewish people to have its own country, its own sovereignty, a safe haven. How did it happen that it became anti-Semitism? You got a few minutes.
Of course. Thank you.
I know you can give a whole lecture.
Exactly. I'm thinking of how to shorten it. Okay, thank you, Rabbi. So I love it when people say, I'm not an anti-Semite, I just don't like Israel. I'm okay with Jews, but that Israel, that's a problem. So first and foremost, in Cherut, we teach that the land of Israel, the state of Israel, belongs to all the Jewish people. Regardless of where you live, we would like you to have a connection to the land of Israel. Regardless of the borders, regardless of all, every Jew has a stake in the land of Israel. And when somebody denies the Jews the right to a Jewish state, what are they saying, basically? Have you heard go back to Poland? Oh, haven't we heard that? Go back to Poland. Well, learn your history, guys. Can't go back to Poland because we never came from Poland. So when somebody says to a Jew, I don't really hate you as a Jew, I just hate Israel. Israel is the, looking for a term, Israel is the full fulfillment of Judaism. Having Israel, having that connection to our ancestral homeland, the Jewish history is intricately connected, and we have always had a presence in the land of Israel. No matter what, since Avraham Avinu, we have always had a connection to the land of Israel. And there has not been a time since the return of the Hebrews from Egypt that there has not been a Hebrew/Jewish presence in the land of Israel. And when somebody says to us, I only have a problem with Israel, excuse me, and they say, I have no problem with you, but then at that same chant they say from the river to the sea, well, they're basically saying, what are they saying? And not me, okay? There is a connection between Israel and the Jewish people because we are not only, yes, we are now in a synagogue and there are prayers and we are davening to Hashem and we're bringing in the Sabbath, but we are first and foremost a nation with a belief system that was given to us after we became a nation. We had to become a full nation until, then Hashem, and this is not my forte, the religious part, but I'm going to give you a little bit of it. And Rabbi, you can correct me if I'm making any mistakes. I've said that before. More than anything, we are a people. We are a nation with a homeland, with one central place, no matter where we live across the globe, our center. Which direction do we pray? When we pray, where do we pray? What do we face? Yerushalayim, the east, Yerushalayim. When we are in diaspora, when we say the Seder, when we read the Seder, L'shana Haba Be Yerushalayim, the land of Israel, it's intricately part of who we are as Jews. If somebody denies us that homeland, first of all, we're at the mercy of the world. And today, when people write on all sorts of, they write to me and they ask questions, I ask my neighbors if they will hide me. By the way, that question infuriates me. Because thank God, Baruch Hashem, we are not pre-Holocaust. There is a Jewish state, there are horrible things happening. But I assure you, no matter which government in Israel, will not talk about politics, but I do know that the Jews in diaspora have Israel's back, and Israel has the back of the Jews in diaspora. There is no such thing as Jews at the mercy of diaspora anymore. Do you know what it's like when we find out that there's somebody, God forbid, missing in Peru on a trip? There's a Jew. How many Jews are there? There's a plane sent out from Israel. Kol Yisrael arevim ze lazeh. We're all connected to the land of Israel, whether we like it or not. So when they deny us the right to Israel, They're basically denying us the right to live, to exist. They're telling us we do not have a right. Thank you.
More tomorrow morning. What's the topic tomorrow? Right. It's amazing why the story you told, the story of the Jewish people, the return of the Jewish people, and the rise of the Jewish people from the ashes, like the phoenix from the ashes after World War II, is one of the greatest stories of modern history. Not just our story. It's a great story. It's an inspirational story to other nations that have had a struggle to survive and to exist. An amazing story, and we're not telling it very well. It's obvious we're not succeeding in telling it well. So how is it, Karma will talk about, how are we losing that PR war, and what do we do to turn it around? And of course, it started by being a proud Zionist, and when somebody challenges, to have the answers to them, to show them that their history is wrong, their facts are wrong. On the Supreme Court in Israel sat an Israeli Arab. That's apartheid? An Israeli Arab, and he was on the court that sentenced a president of Israel to a jail sentence. There's no apartheid. Zionism is not racism, and we have to ourselves begin to forcefully push back and answer, and how to talk to our relatives who sometimes are not exactly on the same page. It's painful. How to talk to our friends who may not be on the same page and they don't understand, or how to talk to people that are where we work when they don't understand. If they hate, it's hard to change haters, but there are people who don't understand. You start with them, and you turn them around, then you have more allies. So we look forward to tomorrow morning to learn about how we can do better in telling the story of Israel. And we thank you and your amazing Chirut organization for all the work you do and for being with us. And again, to the Harold Simon Foundation, to the Simon family, thank you for bringing them here and beginning this dialogue. As you know,